Welcome to another exciting episode of the Business of Digital podcast, featuring your hosts, Matt Siltala and Dave Rohr. Hey guys, excited to have you on another one of these Business of Digital episodes. How's it going, Dave?
It is going pretty good for this week so far.
Yeah. So, dude, what we're going to talk about today, this is an interesting one for me because there's a little bit of a personal touch. Plus, there's a lot of this that, we just interact with in our daily lives, and it kind of hits home and stuff. And so I'm just going to kind of jump into it, and we'll let everybody know what we're chatting about. And
if you couldn't tell from the title.
Well, you could tell from the title as well, yeah. But those that don't listen, that just are so ready to listen to you and me, that's what I'm talking about now. Anyway, but the idea of, do business and influencers need websites? We were talking about it before. One of the things that popped to my mind, when we were discussing this was, and again, we're not getting into names or giving specifics, but a recent Instagram influencer that went out and made
I don't know if that person is an influencer, but they're referenced as one. Just saying.
True. Okay. Well, the quote unquote referenced influencer, that got banned on Instagram or lost her account on Instagram, went and made a YouTube video that since has probably made her more popular.
Yeah.
But not for the right reasons. But basically went on there and talked about how her life is over and Instagram ruined everything, and because they banned her and blah blah blah. And anyway, it brings up an interesting point, Dave, on and we've talked about we've touched on certain topics of, hey, should a business for sure have a website? What kind of a website? Things like
yes.
that. But
yes.
But do business and influencers need websites? And that is the basis of what we're going to talk about, and that's kind of the intro. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on kicking us off, but let's go from there.
Yes, you need one.
There you go, guys.
If nothing else, if you're like, oh, this is an easy one, yes. What they do, but for some reason, it seems more and more businesses think they don't. Mm-hmm. And just going down the list of the examples when I was scatterbrained and trying to just, brain dump, the number of businesses, and I probably see it more often with restaurants and breweries, that I maybe when traveling and I start looking for places.
No, you never do that.
No, I know. They'll either have just a Facebook page, or you'll only find them on Yelp. For influencers, they're probably only on YouTube or only on Instagram. That's all they have. And if you try to learn anything more about them, they tell you to email their business email address, and that's really it. There is no link to a website where you can learn about them. You have to go and do searches for them and read interviews about them. Yeah. And there's no place to go and contact them, learn more about them, follow them off that channel. And I think that's the biggest thing that scares me. You want to go claim your Google My Business, but Google is making it more and more, trying to make it more and more as a one-stop shop for everything. Yeah. It ties into all of the analytics now. It ties into your AdWords. It ties into, and it has Google search, and they're trying to tie it into everything and anything. And now you can do posts, you can update your hours, and you can control your knowledge graph, and you can control all of this different stuff to a point. So you don't really need a website, right? What about eBay, Etsy, someone that just sells on Amazon?
Let's take a little bit closer of a look into that, and let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, photography. And you had referenced a tweet from Rand, and I think we'll probably drop a link to it in the write-up for you guys. But if you're building a career as an influencer, there's an article that he referenced talking about or Instagram at one point was a great place for photographers to build up their following and build up a business, and with algorithms changing and with rules changing and things changing, it's no longer what it once was. And so, even me, I'm not like trying to book weddings and do things like that, but selling a print here and there. There's been some interesting things that's happened to me even lately, Dave. Like, I don't, and I'll tell you guys right now, just full disclaimer, or disclosure, whatever. I don't have a website for my personal photography. It's never been something that, or for photography business in general. I've never, I've gotten into photography, but I haven't, set up a personal website for it. I do have my stuff on SmugMug and other places, and obviously Instagram, but I have people asking me, hey, where can I buy prints, or where can I go to buy a print? And it's hard for me because, sometimes if I say, well, you can go and look at what I have at Instagram, sometimes the response is, well, I'm not on Instagram. Or, you mentioned I'm not on Facebook. There's people that refuse to go on Facebook or whatever. And so, like, inevitably what it comes down to is it would be really nice to have a place like a website where I could send them and say, hey, here's where you could buy prints. Here's where you could send me the money. Here's where I can make it really easy for you. Because, right now we think Instagram's never going away, or we think certain platforms are never going away. But I guarantee you 10 years ago, if you told someone that, or maybe it's even longer, 10, 15 years ago, you told someone MySpace would never, or MySpace wouldn't even be relevant at one point, people would have laughed at you, And so I think, what we're getting at here is it's fine and dandy. You could use these different platforms, but don't ever rely on them being the sole source of your income, because something could change. A flip, so to speak, could get switched, and everything that you've done or built up or whatever could be gone. Let's say that you have someone that's out for you, and there's a bunch of you get a competitor doing something and they somehow get you banned, and that's your only source of income, and you're gone. Boom. You're toast. Again, I don't know if that's kind of, if that's making sense, Dave, or if you kind of want to lead off of that, what I'm talking about. But those are just some of my thoughts, especially, being a photographer.
Well, and we'll just keep going with your example, like right now. So you're on the borderline hobbyist and only started doing prints because people started asking. Like, you weren't even trying to. Is that
correct?
So, I mean, you're in this almost, I don't want to say catch-22, but you're in this weird space of, you're a hobbyist and you like taking the photographies, the photos.
I like taking all the photographies.
You like taking all the photographies. Yes, that is, I'm making up words today completely. But the only reason you even got onto something like a SmugMug and started pushing more on Instagram is because people would see something on Facebook every so often, and you almost created a second Instagram account. Or you had it on one and then people started asking, so you created that. So you're slowly edging towards more of a true, travel photographer, or
correct,
outside type photographer, or whatever you want, whatever the technical distinction is or name. But you're slowly moving that way. You've created, Instagram, you've got the SmugMug, you keep creating more and more profiles and moving that way. Eventually it might make sense for you to get a website, just
absolutely.
Have your daughter who's in college that needs a project.
She just coded her first website.
See, there you go. She can do her second now.
But with what you're saying too, it goes with what the other thing that we had talked about, or wanted to talk about, with what Christopher Penn said: never build on rented land. I can't tell you the amount of times. I mean, obviously, we're talking about social sites and stuff like that, but I can't. I got into this industry being an SEO, and a lot of my first clients were in the local space, and I can't tell you the amount of people's livelihoods that I don't know if I want to say got ruined or deeply impacted, because when they no longer wanted to pay a Yellow Pages, or there's plenty of other ones, and I'm just not going to throw everyone under the bus. I don't care about Yellow Pages, but you stop paying them. They have that number one ranking for your business, and they stop paying, and then you stop paying them, and all of a sudden you're gone. You're screwed. You don't have any more way for these people to get a hold of you, and so that's kind of what we're talking about. You know, that is a literal case where you have all your eggs in one basket, and it's just not, you know, it's not good, Dave.
Well, in that same thread, Ann Handley, you know, had a good point. It was like, because email, for the love of Pete, people, she said, don't outsource your connections or your data. And having a website on top of a bunch of other things. So, you know, if you only sell on Etsy or you only have an eBay store and, you know, something happens, you lose your connection to those people.
Right.
I believe through Amazon, there's limits as well as for how you can reach out to people. So if you want to have a certain sale, I think you can do so many email blasts. And I've even saw something about this too, where people that are using, I just thought of this example. It's the video tutorial, like you can go learn how to do Udemy.
Yeah, gotcha.
I saw someone break down like the Udemy and how she can only, I think it was a she in the example, she can only email out to the people that have ever bought from her once a month or twice a month. And there's limits on what she can say, links that she can send, discounts, and like all this other stuff. So because she's on someone else's platform, she doesn't own the interactions really. She has to go through the third party. So she doesn't have her own email list. She doesn't have people that come to her own website. So she goes wherever Udemy goes, or in the case of, you know, someone that's selling handcrafted stuff on Etsy. Mm-hmm. If you don't have your own website, sure, you're probably not going to be able to tell people on Etsy that, you know, to go there. But when you send them the actual physical object, send them a sticker, send them a business card, send them a link or a note that says, hey, thanks for buying on Etsy. If you ever need anything, you know, feel free to check out Etsy, or here's my website where you can actually ask for custom things, and try to own that relationship with them, not use a third party, whether it be Facebook, Google, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. You know, I think it just harms people and it limits you. But there's also, I think, even for an individual, I just recoded my personal website recently.
Yeah.
I moved it off of WordPress. I think I still have a couple more bugs to fix, but I moved it off of WordPress, but it's still there. So if you do a search for my name, you know, it'll come up. And I think a lot of people think that I don't own a business, I don't need a website. I'm not an influencer, quote unquote, I don't need a website. When you apply for a job, what do you think us people do? We search for your name.
Yeah.
If you want to control at least one of those spots in the top 10 for your name and be able to sell yourself, why wouldn't you have a website?
I saw a funny thing on BuzzFeed the other day that said what it's like to do a job interview now. And it was talking about that very thing, about this kid was going in for an interview and he had like the degree and all he was very qualified for the guy or for the job, and the three people interviewing him were like, that doesn't matter. We don't care about that. Let's dive deep. And they, you know, they're making a joke of it. And they went and looked at everything that he'd posted on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And they're like, look at what he posted 9 years ago on Twitter. And, you know, it was like some vague reference to something that wasn't even bad. And they're like, and then they accused him of being like sexist or racist or whatever, just because, you know, tongue-in-cheek type stuff. And it was so true, though. And I can't help but think of that when you're talking about that. It makes me laugh.
You mean like the one tweet that my current Chicago Bears quarterback posted when he was like 18?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yep. Yeah, I mean, when you search for, I mean, I was doing this, I don't even know how many years ago, almost 10 years ago. Like when I saw people come in, I would just start doing searches for them. Like when I got handed resumes from HR and it was narrowed down, like these are the three people you're going to talk to, I would start doing searches to see if they had websites out there or if they had their own website and they talked about stuff. And I think sometimes it scared some of them a little bit, because I'd ask them about, the band that they were in. And they were like, I just sat down. You ready to know I have a band? I'm like, yeah, the internet. I'm like, you're applying to be a developer or an SEO or something. I'm like, why wouldn't you think I would, do searches on your name? Or just searches in general. Like, this is what I do all day. I spend all day on the internet anyway. Might as well,
That's where I always try to tell people, be careful of again, I don't want things to be hidden up or whatever, but, if you Google someone and the last 4 jobs that they were at for only 6 months at a time were on Glassdoor, and they're scathing reviews of their employer, especially for stupid reasons. Do you think people are going to hire you? You think that they're going to want that kind of drama brought to their company? Probably not.
And if you have your own personal website, you could try to hide it.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll push it down one, but, you got to start somewhere. But I think it's just, I think businesses rely too much, and I'd have to look. I once went and looked up a bunch of websites for I don't know, it was 100 breweries, because I was just curious what percentage had it. And I should actually probably do that for restaurants. Pick a town around the Chicagoland area, and go through Yelp, and pick all of the pizza places in the Chicagoland area. I wonder what percentage would have their own website or rely on Facebook. What ranks number 1? I think would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But I think it's usually the smaller places that don't have it, because then if you're having a sale, you rely on your Instagram following, and I don't know, Facebook's down to less than 1% now?
Yep.
Organically.
The organic reach,
yeah, and Instagram, based on the hubbub most recently in March and April, it seems that some of the algos have changed. I saw something the other day about the organic algos changing in LinkedIn as well. So, even if you have your business or you're doing stuff over there, the organic reach it's still there, but it's changing, and what's working, and how to optimize it is changing. So if you're only relying on those types of sites, you live and die by how you do on those, not just your own website. So, and I think that's the biggest thing is, as a business, you don't own your relationship. And I think that is the biggest problem, and the thing that scares me the most.
And that's what I think the point of this, guys, and I guess I'll kind of use a minute or so to, maybe longer, to wrap up my final thoughts on this, is, and what I think we're trying to get at, and then I'll let Dave talk to it, because I don't want to speak for him. But I think what we're trying to really offer you here is, obviously there's so many different platforms you to be a part of, and especially if you're the person running all of these shops, so to speak, and you're the one that's also running your business, and you're the one that's trying to get yourself on, the YouTube, Google Webmaster Tools, Yelp, Amazon, whatever, okay, Instagram. You're going to have to prioritize, okay? You can't do everything all at once, okay? And you can't be the master of all these, if you will. But I think the point is, what we're trying to do is, if you're on Instagram right now and that's all you're on, or if you're a restaurant and you're only on Facebook, think about the reach. Think about the potential. Think about what could happen. What happens if Facebook goes down? What happens if Instagram bans you? What happens if certain things happen to these properties? Okay, so give people opportunity for other ways to find you. Definitely, I would say, if you have an Instagram account and that's it, then definitely get a personal website. Okay, get something where you have your own hosted website. And speaking of that, we actually, a couple episodes ago, we just talked about especially if you're getting into podcasting, we talked about podcasting hosting options and stuff. And so you can go give that a listen. But my point here is, definitely have a website, and then start growing it from there. Okay, you're on Facebook, get that reach. Then get on Instagram, get that reach. Go get on Google My Business. Go get on YouTube if you want. If it works for you, eBay, Etsy, Amazon, whatever. You can start knocking these out one at a time. And we understand, we're not trying to say, hey, do all this at once. But the point being, don't just have one of these, because if one of these goes away, you're done. I mean, you're done, especially if that's the one that you're using. You're done. And, this gives you some opportunity for, people to have other ways and means to find you.
I think for me, if you're an influencer, or not even if you're an influencer, YouTuber, personality, or if you're just a professional, I think you should have a single page, even if it's just a static page, throw it up there somewhere.
Exactly.
I don't even care if it's on free WordPress. Good grief. Just give people a place to link to, a place to read about you. And if you're a small business or even a mid-sized business and you think, we're in this really old, type of thing and no one really cares about websites, I am trying to think. I've never seen a Etsy, eBay, Amazon page, never seen a Facebook page, never seen a Twitter or Instagram page listed in the Google local packs.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. I've never seen anything but a website.
It's very true.
Maybe a Google, I don't think I have. That would make sense because it is Google's, but I'm just trying to think. I've never seen anything show up in that local pack like that. At least not in the 3 or 5s or 7s.
Yeah.
Now you might show up on the map, but that's using third-party data that, again, you don't control. But I'm trying to think, if you really need a reason, if you're a local business and you want to be found local, or you want to be in that local pack, I honestly cannot. Then maybe it's happened, but I've looked at businesses of various types across the US in lots of different cities. I can't recall ever seeing something show up other than just, a website.
Well, and
not a third-party site.
While you're talking about this, it made me think of one other thing. We do practice what we preach here. This podcast, and we're on all the different places, and we have the hosting, and we, the hosted site. We have all the different channels that make sense for us. But also, recently, we've even gotten our podcasts on YouTube, and we're continuing to upload them there because, again, we realize that there's all sorts of different opportunities and ways for, and that's the other thing that we haven't even touched on or talked about, Dave, is there's, if you have that good of a reach on one platform, just imagine if people, if you give them the opportunity to be found on other platforms, so much more potential business, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yep.
So.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, final thoughts.
I think just if you're a small business, and maybe there's a small percentage, you're probably not going to show up on local pack, or I think at least your chances are going to be very limited. And if you're a YouTuber or a professional, I think having a place for people to, if you're ever quoted in something, or if you ever want to share, your own kind of resume, rather than sending them to LinkedIn, you can send them to your own site. Why not? Why not control it and, and own that relationship? So that's it.
All right,
go to the website,
guys.
Please.
We appreciate, as always, you guys listening to us, and would love, to continue this conversation. If you guys have any questions for us, always ping us on Twitter or any of the other places that you see us or follow us. And so we appreciate you guys listening and checking us out. For Dave Rohr with Northside Metrics, I'm Matt Siltola with Avalanche Media, and we'll check you out on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.